I can keep a fabricator busy with work, but HR is something that I would then outsource because I go, okay, I'm going to call them when I need them, but I don't need them every single day. And I think that's why a lot of times for startups and small businesses, outsourcing some of these services makes 100% sense.
I'm Nick with Peoplease. You guys heard about us last episode or 2 episodes ago. We're a sponsor for First Strike Incubator. We work with manufacturing companies, and I know you're not used to me, not your other hosts, and they'll be here shortly.
Did he just take our job?
Nick, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm a manufacturing company. What can Peoplease do for me?
We can help you lower and contain costs, and for you, T, because I've listened to the episodes here, it can actually give you more time back in your day. I think you had a episode here, you talked about how you had to leave a family function to go back to finish a project. Well, wouldn't that be nice if you're able to stay at that family function and enjoy your time with your family? That's one of the biggest benefits to us.
The real truth is he didn't want to stay and he made an excuse to leave.
I got to go. I just remembered. But your expertise is in the HR arena, right? In human resources
Correct.
issues?
Yeah, correct. So we are a professional employer organization. The simplest way to look at it is outsource HR, but it's so much more than outsource HR. There's other companies out there that are outsource HR. We're particular to the blue and gray collar industries. That's the companies we like to work with. So we're more of a work comp driven PEO versus a competition, maybe a benefits driven or a HR compliance. We do everything that everybody else can do. We just tailor our fit to fit that blue and gray collar market because what's most important to them is their insurances that they have. So like work comp, right? We want to help you lower your work comp rate. So we give you a safety coordinator that's part of your solutions team.
That's cool.
So we were talking, and by the way, thanks for the hats.
Yeah.
You're very welcome.
They're nice
Every
hats.
week, are you going to keep swag coming to us?
We're going to try.
Because we need some shirts.
Yeah, I got
shirts.
those are just on back order. We did change our
I'm just
logo.
checking.
Yeah, we
But
changed our
when
logo.
we were talking about growth strategies, how to use outsource to grow, and a lot of some of our listeners and viewers are starting their own companies. And a lot of times they get advice that says, well, you got to hire these full-time or fractionals. And we're like, no, there's other options.
People talk about growth and outsourcing and they think they have whatever thought they may have or bias they bring with them. But like one of the easiest things to think about with outsourcing for me is accounting, and not necessarily even bookkeeping, but like most business owners, I'm not going to say most, I'm going to say myself, like I don't prepare my own taxes at the end of the year, right? Mm-hmm. I keep my own books during the year, but then I go to an accounting firm and they do my actual taxes, they prep them, they file them, they do all that. A lot of individuals do that. They go to their accountant and they do their 1040 or whatever it is. That's an outsourced function that I think is kind of easy for everyone to wrap their head around, right? So now as a business owner, one of the exercises we do in the incubator is going through roles and responsibilities, right? Mm-hmm. So like me as the owner and the lead fabricator, like what are my roles and responsibilities? Then I want to hire someone and I go, okay, first thing I got to do, I write a job description, outline their roles and responsibilities, and then figure out where they fit into my day-to-day. I can't keep an HR professional busy for 52 weeks a year, right? So I look at that and I go, okay, I can keep a fabricator busy with work, but HR is something that I would then outsource because I go, okay, I'm going to call them when I need them, but I don't need them every single day. And I think that's why a lot of times for startups and small businesses, outsourcing some of these services makes 100% sense.
Well, it's huge too, especially as a startup company, because you don't know, what you know, right? You're a fabricator, so you know how to work with your hands, you know how to weld, you know how to run CNC machines. You don't know the laws of New York. You don't know the laws of any other state that relate to your employees. Eventually, as a business starts growing, your friends and family, they maybe either go out somewhere else or you don't bring them on as W-2, you just pay them contractors, but you have to hire people outside of it. So you have to find these people that are that fit what you're looking for. You have to do the interview process. And for an outsourced HR company like Peoplease, we can help you write those job descriptions. We can give you the questions to ask during the interviews that are going to fit and tailor that person to what you are looking for as a business owner. And at the end of the day, no one wants to really do HR and payroll. It takes up a lot of time. So you want to make sure that, your time is spent as a business owner, especially growing your, following your mission and vision. That's your goal. That's what you want to do. It's your business, it's your baby.
Well, and value add too, right? Like what's my value add versus, the value add of Peoplease or the value add of a fabricator. You want to make sure that everyone is properly aligned with skill set to value add, right? So especially like you talk about, hiring and what questions to ask, what questions not to ask, what questions you're not allowed to ask. Training, sorry, just one other thing, but like the necessary trainings for sexual harassment and all that kind of stuff, like, is that something that I'm going to do and keep track of, or are you going to give me a template and a guide for that, and then give me the paperwork that has to be completed to say, yep, we did this, we're good to go, we're moving on. There's immediate value creation in going, this is not, I don't have to worry about this.
Yeah, when we're talking to new companies, the thing they don't realize is how often Department of Labor rules and regulations change.
Yeah.
And from experience, because I used to run our payroll when we first started our company a million years ago, to now, I don't do any of it because it's painful. But I tell newbies, and we have this in the incubator, that's one thing you do not want to get into because you're never going to figure it out. And your full-time job becomes trying to stay on top of the rules and regulations of the Department of Labor. So when we're talking with people, we're like, just go talk to Nick.
Okay.
Because that's the first, like everything else is great. And eventually you're going to get into how benefits kind of keep the employees you want to keep.
Sure.
Right, and creating fringe and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But the first step for most people watching this who are just starting to come out is if you're trying to figure out payroll, that is a waste of your time. Unless you're in a payroll business.
Unless you are a payroll company.
Right. Unless you're a payroll company.
I'm a former CPA, and I want to jump into something different. So you may be good with that, but again, you're right.
And even then, like, you're going to have your own hiring practices and records and all that, So again, I think a lot of it is, but I think it starts with as you grow, and this is an exercise we do in the incubator, is going, write down your job description, your roles and responsibilities. And then when you think about adding a team member, do the same exercise for them. And then that will show you, like, kind of, this is what I need to outsource. This is what I'm going to keep in-house.
And grab your hourly rate.
Yeah.
What is yours as a business owner or even a CFO in a company? What is my hourly rate? What does it cost me? How much time am I spending on these tasks that are not necessarily my role? Even if you're an HR generalist, your main role isn't to process payroll. It's not to process payroll. Just so you know, it's to handle employee issues and internal issues with your people, and it's also to keep them motivated by training and keeping them engaged with the company. That's an HR person's main role. Not to sit behind a computer and process payroll and worry about filing 941 forms and what is my FICA rate, what's my SUTA rate, those questions.
Well, even going like, okay, I'm going to get a workers' comp audit, right? I mean, I'm going to, but not now.
Right. Yeah.
Now what? You know what I mean? So like if you're shopping around and trying to find an outsourced company, like that's a big question I'd ask is, okay, I get notice that I'm getting audited. What's your role in that? And if they go, oh, that's on you, I'd be like, oh, no.
Why am I paying you?
No, like you told me you were taking this off my plate. So how do we work together to get through the audit?
So yeah, with Peoplease, you'll never have an audit because
Yeah.
we do pay as you go workers' comp. Come underneath our master workers' comp policy. You're paying as you go. It's fantastic, especially for seasonal business, or if there's a lot of ups and downs within your business of, hey, I have a bunch more people during the winter. Like think about a ski mountain, right? They're going to have a bunch more people during the winter, or think about, and during the summer they're going to have less. They still have main staff, state park, or not that they're state parks, but state parks have the same thing. Landscapers.
Can you bring it back and explain to the viewers that whole what you just said?
Yeah, because that's killer. Like,
that's something they probably don't have an understanding or perspective on. So just to kind of break it down for them, that'd be awesome.
So I'll break down. So workers' comp is based off your payroll. So because we are processing your payroll, each individual employee is going to have a certain comp code assigned to them, depending on what their task is within the business. So as you're paying your employee, you're paying your work comp rate. So you're always paying the right amount of money towards your workers' comp policy based on your payroll, because we're processing the payroll for you. We know what your comp number is, and if you have employees who leave, Or if you add more employees, that's going to fluctuate the number. So most of the times in insurance policy, if you get a workers' comp policy, you're getting them an estimated payroll to start the year. So if you come in low, you can get a workers' comp policy for free. You can say I'm spending $10 on the lowest class code, which is clerical code. And they're going to quote you for that $10, and you're going to pay 20 cents a year. But at the end of the year, after you have already paid that clerical person $100,000, you owe them the rest of that money, right? With us, there's no owing the money. And then you know what happens if an insurance company owes you money? They're going to want it in 30 days. You know what happens if they owe you money? They're going to credit you on your next workers' comp policy. And then that's a vicious cycle, because let's say next year's a real good year and I got to add, I got to add 5 more fabricators, which is going to be a relatively high risk class code, right? You're going to eat up that $4,000 credit that you just got from them in 6 months, you know?
Yeah. So you were saying that your customers are housed under your class code? Is that what you were saying?
No, not under our class code. They have their own individual class codes. Yeah. They're underwritten for their own individual business. But what they do is they get to take on our work comp mod. So a lot of contracts, whether it be private or public, they require certain stipulations. One of them is typically work comp mod needs to be 1 or lower. Mm-hmm. And 1 shock loss can get you over 1. So everybody who starts a new business is going to start with a 1. 1 means that you're paying what you're supposed to for those class codes. Anything more than 1 is it's an expense. You're paying more. Anything below it is a credit. But in order to keep those contracts, if you do go over 1, you can come onto a PEO into Peoplease, and you'll get our work comp mod, which is like 0.88. I mean, you'll still pay what your mod is, but you at least protect yourself from losing that contract.
And doing it based on payroll makes sense too, because like I can say for me personally, I've been trying to hire, and so I got a workers' comp policy in anticipation of that, was not able to find someone to hire, eventually canceled the policy because there was no point to have a workers' comp policy, and that money did not come back to me. That was just, okay, you paid for this, and you never used it, and you never hired anyone. Oh, well. Right. So doing it based on like actual payroll of going, and that was bad advice I had from an insurance agent at the time who was like, let's get you lined up now.
But
and so I paid.
That's their job.
Yeah, and I paid like a year, for a year of workers' comp. And then they did an audit, and they're like, can you send us payroll? And I was like, no one got paid. Yep. And they were
Thank you for that $5,000 payment.
Yep.
So I have a question for you, because we've talked about this, and we talk a lot in our incubator to our members about things they never thought of or questions they never thought. Do you have some questions that people could start thinking about who are viewing, listening, watching this?
In what regards for those questions?
Kind of that hiring process, like things they should think about when they have to go look for workers' comp or look at other insurances, or maybe they have people chirping in their ear, because once you start a company, you're on some list and people just keep calling you, right?
Right.
How are they going to filter out the noise from really good advice or things they should consider versus things they should not?
The first thing, and I'll say this, is look at something new. I would always say look at something new. If you've been doing the same thing over and over again every year, you're only hurting yourself in the business. I mean, we're in the age of technology. We've seen it, since I was in my infancy as a sales professional till now, of what's available to people. So certainly look into it. Don't discourage every call. But if you got the same phone call from the same type of insurance company, right? Like, all right, maybe take one of them. But weigh your options. Look at more than you're used to. Kind of change your mindset. And then, another thing for, these people reaching out to them.
Like right now, I'm thinking about hiring. From your perspective, what are like the top couple things that you'd say to look at when you call Peoplease and use code PPLSTRIKE?
Back to so if I'm looking at a new hire and this is what I want to do, so you're certainly going to want to make sure that you're thinking of a salary range, right? You have to look at your competition. What is my competition doing for these? So you're in your specialty field, like a specialty trade, like a welder. So what is my competition doing? How are they getting these high-end welders, right? You can get one right out of a VOTEC or a vocational school, and you can pay a minimal, right? But you're not going to have him on one of your top bikes, right? You're going to have him do TIG work or whatever the case may be. So you want to see what they're offering as far as incentives, whether it be pay, whether it be benefits, hopefully the whole package, right? And you want to position yourself to be better, right? Look better at least. And we give that option, right? A small business, I can bring on a one-person company with one W-2 employee. They can have access to Fortune 500 level benefits. It's wild to think that.
Yeah, that's a big thing. But
what's the number one mistake you see companies making, especially newer companies?
The newer companies, it is it's trusting friends and family. They say, hey, okay, maybe I got some funding, right? I got an investment. I'm going to bring my cousin on, and I'm going to start paying him at a W-2 or her at a W-2. And next thing you know, that cousin, that's family, right? Family's family. Everybody has the good ones, they have the bad ones. They start not showing up. And it makes that conversation a lot more difficult for a business owner or a new business to have that conversation with your cousin and say, hey, I can't pay you anymore. And then probably the second thing would be just that time investment. You don't understand how much time is invested in that HR relationship. So if you go from a sole proprietor, I'm doing my own thing by myself. Now I add 3 more people. Now you have 3 more personalities within your company and 3 more people who have needs, and you need to manage that while trying to grow your business, while talking to new potential clients. Right? Most CEOs, most owners of the company are the best salesmen you're going to see in the company, and that's their whole point. Is they want to drive. And then probably number 3 for me would just be the biggest hiccups is a status quo. So let's just say I started a new business, but I've worked at a company that had the standard setup, right? A payroll company for payroll here. I have a insurance broker who does my insurance. I have another benefits broker who does my benefits, and I have a CPA and bookkeeper who do my books at the back end. That gets cumbersome, and then you're paying, what is it? It's named 4 different things. So now you're paying 4 different people. But when something comes up, some sort of issue, you got to remember who you're working with. You got to, I have to call Jan instead of Jim, and we're doing the PEO and having one thing in a centralized location with a support team. You make one call for any of those things as long as you have them with us. And
that's our model with the commercialization studio, one point of contact. Because to scale, you have to simplify.
Yeah, well, and you don't want things existing in silos, because then you can't. But even so let me make it real for a minute. Like if I say to you, hey Nick, I'm gonna hire a welder, salaried. There are issues with that. You know what I mean? Like there are certain things that you have to look out for of going like, what does New York State qualify as an hourly versus a salaried worker, no matter what you want to do. Mm-hmm. And so having outside experts that go like, okay, I know you want to do that, but here's how you have to do that. Like, are they, or I say, hey, I'm going to bring in my cousin to help me weld. Mm-hmm. And you go, okay, great. Is he an employee or is he a consultant? 1099. Yep. And I go, no, he's a 1099. And you go, okay, is he using all his own tools? And I go, no, he's using all my stuff. And you go, is he working in his own place of business? And I say, no, he's working in my shop. And you go, okay, you can want a 1099.
He's
but
a W-2.
Legally, he's a W-2. So that kicks off a different set of things. So what it does is it makes it so I go, I don't have to worry about that. I come and I ask you, and then you tell me here's what you should be doing to do that.
Best practices.
Yeah.
Legally. Yep. Best practices.
I don't have to go out and learn, okay, these are all the rules that I'm supposed to be. I just go, hey, I need a welder. And you say, okay, how are they going to work? Whose tools? What's their training? And you tell me, this is what you have to do.
Yep.
And I think that's where you kind of really can tap into the value add of outsourcing and stuff like that. So
we're going to wrap this up. You come back and visit?
Oh, absolutely.
You going to bring some beverages and some dip?
Yes.
Okay.
Beverages and dip. Is there something to dip it in? I'm not getting into this. That was meant to trigger me. That was meant to trigger me.
But people trigger you. So we're at the Expo right now. We're at the Business and Nonprofit Catalyst Expo. And I put people up to and paid them to come to T and trigger him about Tesla. Did they do that?
They didn't, so which means you got hosed on the money end
of it. I didn't pay him yet.
But
I got to run it through payroll.
There you go. Those are 1099 situations.
You might want to call your HR expert that's on your account. Double check with that to see if that's all right, or at least how to handle that situation.
Thank you, Nick, from Peoplease. Code PPLSTRIKE.
Yeah.
T, Bob, No Followers Podcast. You know how to find us.
Thanks for having me.